One day I just like woke up and I actually got a reply from Noel who had like 1 million followers or something. And he replied to one of my engagement base. I think my tweet was something like, I don't even know, it's something so stupid. I just tagged Noel in my tweet and then he ended up replying with like his name. And that got like 1 million impressions and I just went like viral. Like I had like 1,000 likes or whatever. And from that single tweet, I got like maybe 3 or 4 inquiries. And that's kind of how it really started.
And one of those inquiries was Vayner?
Yeah, one of them was this guy who worked at Waiter Commerce, and they had like special projects, like a new initiative, and they wanted to work with a designer. So they just hit me up through that one viral tweet. And since I was tweeting before that as well, but none of that was really getting engagement, when I did get viral, like a lot of people saw my other stuff as well. Like when I was posting my design work or like, just something about like a website that I did maybe, that ended up getting like a lot of like interest from real customers as well.
There's this idea of like creating a binge bank. I saw it on a podcast. I forget which one. It was a couple of years ago. But basically there's this idea that if you're making content online and you're trying to like convert, whether it's for subscribers or leads or customers, whatever it is, the idea is to like, even though you're not getting users, when you post content, you're creating like a binge bank so that when someone finds like that one piece of content that like they resonate with, or that one piece of content that pops up in their algorithm, they can go back to your profile and they'll basically see what is a landing page of all of the other videos or posts that you've put out, which is what, they base their decision to follow you off of. And so I remember I'd worked on like a handful of agencies in the last 10 years. Saying 10 years is crazy, but I've worked on like a handful of agencies. The first one was a video editing agency that I started when I was 11. I didn't call it an agency. I would just reach out to YouTubers that had 20 to 50,000 subscribers and say that I would edit their videos for free until eventually I got them to pay me. And I realized from doing that like spec work, like this fake work that like you do for free, is like the best way to get anyone to work with you, because they're paying for an output. So if you can just show them 10 or 20 other outputs, whether or not you got paid for those outputs, that doesn't matter to them. They just want to see what you're capable of. And it sounds like you kind of skipped the years of, outreach or kind of like fumbling that a lot of people do when they're starting their first thing by just doing that spec work.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually perfectly put together. Yeah. And that's why it was so easy to get that Vayner client, because when they saw my work, it wasn't just like a blank portfolio, and I didn't approach them as like an upcoming designer. I already had a portfolio of like 10 pretty polished design works, and it was all like all the way from like the design idea to execution. And I even like for 1 or 2 projects, I actually bought a fake domain that made it like seem like a real website. So I bought a domain, I bought a site plan, I made it like a full like real project. So when they looked at it, it was like, okay, this guy's actually worked with this. It wasn't like a .webflow.io link. So that also helped.
That's dope.
Yeah.
This YouTube thumbnail and title is about to be how to scam your way to X $100,000 in revenue as a designer.
Yeah, that's how it's going to go. Yeah.
So, okay, you got your first client now, which is like, let's say a lot of people are able to kind of luck into their first client for whatever agency they're working on. How did you get the second one?
The second one was also from the same method, the same tweet actually. So that one tweet actually got me 3 clients and about like $40,000 revenue. So that was like pretty good as like my first like 2 months as a freelancer. So it was just like a lot of nothing, and then all of a sudden I got these 3 or 4 projects that I had to work with. From there, my next client was just a referral from the same people, and I kept just like sharing my stuff because I knew that this was a format that worked. So whatever work I would do, I would just like post it on Twitter or just share a link.
How were you pricing your stuff initially? I feel like a lot of people who get outreach, like their first time getting clients, they're like, yeah, I'll do it for like $800.
Okay, and so on my website, it said like $10,000 because I just thought $10,000 was like an insane amount of money at that time. So that was like my only reason. It just said my minimum price starts from 10K, which now that I think about it, is pretty high for somebody who's just starting off. I think I based it off like YouTube videos I watched and like other agencies I saw, because I really tried to mimic their portfolios, and I saw like their work, and then I saw like they would have like a minimum level of engagement on their website, so I just like copied that. I didn't really put too much thought on it.
And it never turned any, like the fact that you were 15 charging $10,000 never turned anyone away?
I never mentioned my age. Why would I like?
How
I would just
they can't tell it? They get on the phone with you and they see like a 15-year-old staring back at them?
no one ever questioned that. No one ever asked me. I would just talk, and I would just like I was so passionate about design. Like all we would talk about is design. I would just like I remember this first call we got with the Vayner client. They were talking about a new project that they had. And I just kept talking about the ideas for the landing pages, stuff we could do with like animations and illustrations. And it never occurred, I guess, to ask my age. But yeah, I got lucky there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And did you ever have to worry about, or what was the process after you started to figure out how to get leads, of like creating processes around going from a bunch of inbound leads on social media to like building a whole company out of it?
Well, that was a very gradual process for sure. So I guess after my initial like spike in leads that came from that one tweet, it did die off like pretty massively. So I had to figure out a way to kind of make this thing sustainable. But I guess I couldn't figure that out until very recently. I think like last year, when I realized the way to kind of get consistent leads, apart from just relying on your network, is just by owning your own distribution. So that's kind of what I do with Twitter. Whatever we work on, and now at this point it's pretty refined, but whatever we work on every day is posted on Twitter. So if it's explorations for a current project or rejected concepts for a past client, everything's just like summed up together and then shared on Twitter, and now on Instagram and like post on Medium. So just owning my own distribution, because it's actually crazy how much of my work can get shared on Twitter. So people just like send it to their founders, and then they send it to friends and stuff like that. Yo, this guy's doing cool work. So having that network effect is pretty important.
So if we were to break down like different social channels and how they, convert into leads, you said there was Twitter, there was Instagram, and there was Medium.
Yeah. So the Twitter's the one that works the best, just because I've been on it for a while. And so I'd say even right now, like I'd say 60% of our clients come from Twitter, and 60% of leads come from Twitter. And then the rest 40% is divided between referrals from past clients, and then just like random people who came across the website. So Instagram doesn't really work that well right now, but I'm just like consistently posting, because I think with all of these social platforms, you just have to keep going until you figure out the unique way to kind of tackle the algorithm, and then it just gets super viral.